Welcome everybody. As Michael said, my name is Kevin Duffy. I'm the Chief Executive of the Cyber Rescue Alliance. We help large organizations from Nomura to Vodafone, associations like the Institute of Chartered Accountants, the Institute of Directors, to help their executive leaders and their members understand what comes with working in an environment of finance without frontiers. Can I ask those of you who have an electronic device of some kind, just to hold it up? The cameras are watching you. You are invited to participate in this simulation. Matthew, I think, is handing out to people as they come in. This sheet at the bottom is the website that you can go to from your iPad, from your iPhone, your Samsung, whatever smart device you have. Let's try and break the Wi-Fi here at the Hilton or overload the mobile network. Just go to slido.com and enter those details. You'll then have an opportunity to participate in the simulation. Just as you're coming up, getting that up on your phones, and the first question is very easy. If we can perhaps, Alan, bring up the voting. First question, very easy. Are you ready for a world of finance without frontiers? Are you ready to participate in this simulation? So far, Malta is demonstrating an above average ability to work in the digital environment, with 29 of you so far having succeeded. Yeah? We'll come back to this. Please carry on joining, slido.com, as we go through. Alan, let's go back to the slides. And just as the last people sign up, you can see again the registration at the bottom. Cyber Rescue works across Europe. Financial institutions as far away as Swedbank, one of the largest in Scandinavia, retailers, pharmaceutical organizations. One of our largest customers is the Mayor of London. We've built a solution, the London Digital Security Centre website, that is to help at least 10% of the 900,000 small and medium-sized businesses that operate out of London, so over 90,000 businesses, to protect them from the effects of cyber attack. And one of the first things you need to do when you're helping businesses understand cyber is to get up from the basement, where a lot of the IT development happens, up to the boardroom. So if you're ready, come with me, and we will go to the boardroom of a hypothetical Maltese organization. Congratulations, you've just been appointed. You work in an organization that's very successful in Malta, has 100,000 customers. Quite obviously, they're not all in Malta. In fact, only about 15% of your revenue comes from this country. You're employing quite lean organization, only about 60 staff, but some 70 partners who are doing legal, HR, marketing, and other outsourced services for you. So absolutely key. And you're doing very well. You attended Helen's fantastic presentation this morning. You're very keen on digital innovation, and you're meeting to talk about the new mobile phone app that's taken off by storm. You're thinking of going to Citi and saying perhaps you can have a partnership with them, since you've learnt this morning about their focus on innovation. But then something happens, and give you this message. We are a tech collective of Korea. We paste your secrets if you not pay 1 Bitcoin. Price to stop will go up 1 Bitcoin every day. And this is where things change slightly. This is a fairly gentle, easy introduction. Quite a few of you will have gone through this before. But it gives me an opportunity to invite you to use your phones again. And you should find in a moment that you'll be able to vote on the next activity. I'm going to bring that up on the slides. First question. Who do you inform? Yeah? Nobody. This doesn't look real. The police. Perhaps they can help. Chief executive. The boss, after all, needs to know. Or what's the DPO? Do you have a DPO? Do you know who your data privacy officer is? The IT team, maybe they can tell you if you were breached. The procurement for the third party, was one of your suppliers affected, or other? And there are quite a lot of others who, when you start to think about it, you may perhaps want to involve. Kenneth, you were telling me earlier how important it is to have a great network of senior executives. You know, maybe you would pick up the phone and ask, hey, is this happening to you as well? But you're now working at ACME, and if you've got your phones with you, you want to decide who to tell. You know, those guys in the basement I mentioned, typically they're guys, let's call them Bill and Ted. They're probably having a wonderful adventure just at the moment. I'm pretty sure you're going to want to talk to the IT team. But actually, maybe there are others, you know, that other category. Do you need to tell your regulator? Do you need to tell your insurer? Do you have a security team? Maybe you've got a business continuity head who has rehearsed this sort of situation before. Yeah? Let's see. There should be 50 or 60 of you who have voted by now. Alan, could we bring up the initial results? I can see still some votes coming in. You're allowed to wait to watch what happens, what people beside you vote. But yes, let's blame it on the basement. Let's ask the IT team, is this real? Now, do you really think they're going to know if it's real? Yeah, there's some great statistics of breaches that have actually been identified, showing it typically takes at least 10 weeks for the IT team to discover that they've been breached. And then at least 4 or 5 weeks to work out what's happened. But you've asked them what's happening. And Michael, if we have 4 or 5 weeks, we could just pause the simulation, or we could carry on. You're still in the boardroom, chatting with your colleagues about who to inform. It's interesting that only 9% of you are choosing to contact the police. A crime has been committed. You are being threatened, you're being blackmailed. Yeah? Interestingly, that's slightly higher than in many countries. It was in Greece last week, it was only 6% decided to tell the police. And even in the UK, it can be less. Let's go back to the slides, please, Alan, and think about what happens next. You know, one of the things that's really important to consider as we go through is you're each answering differently. Imagine this genuinely was a boardroom situation. Some of you might have decided not to tell anybody, and quite often with breaches, even the chief executive. There's some great research we've done. Over half of chief executives haven't been told by their IT department about the worst breach they saw in the last 12 months. Yeah? So quite often when a real breach happens, you're mentally unprepared for it. But let's go on to the afternoon. You go back to your office and find that actually things are now getting a little bit more serious. There's a message that's actually come through to ACME that offers proof that, well, you don't care. That the hackers have real, personal, sensitive information on at least 187 of your customers. You get one of your IT team perhaps to look through, and they confirm that yes, these really are ACME's customers. This really is sensitive data. So I suppose the next question is, because you put your customers always first, is when do you tell the affected customers? Yeah, if you would like to start voting, and Sophie, let's have indeed the cameras going round as people focus on this one. When do you tell your customers that potentially their data is in the hands of criminals? Yeah? Do you tell them immediately? Because you always put customers first. Give yourself 24 hours. 72 hours, some of you will be familiar with that time frame, or take longer. Yeah, there's an option if you want to scroll down to don't inform at all. Typically in these situations, there's only 1 or 2 people who are certain that we can't see how you're voting, who vote, we won't tell our customers. And I can see now, let's bring up the results from the first 70 or 80 of you. Alan, if we could bring up the results so far. Again, something to reflect on is that people disagree about this. It was interesting, I can see on my screen the votes as they initially came in. Over half of the first 20 people who voted said that they would say immediately. They would immediately tell the customers. Yeah? Those digitally connected, frictionless bankers who are in the room, yes, let's tell the customers immediately. Now that demonstrates a great concern for your consumers, your high net worth individuals who are your customers, but also possibly a bit of impulsiveness. There will certainly be differences of opinion. How much time should we give ourselves? In fact, in multiple jurisdictions where we do this with the National Cybersecurity Centre or equivalent in each country, the national police or cybersecurity government agencies point out 72 hours is the time you have under GDPR to notify the regulator. And then, without undue delay, you should be telling affected citizens. You should absolutely be mentally putting them first, but if you communicate too fast or in the wrong way, when you're unprepared for the cascade of consequences that will follow through, then you may find that you cause more harm than good. You certainly, if you're going to react immediately, or even within 24 hours, you need to have your messaging prepared. Let's go back to the slides, please, Alan, and you'll find that things accelerate. Bill and Ted, our IT team, come back in and point out that maybe the Koreans are still in the system. They do need 3 or 4 weeks to be sure, but they say that if you can disconnect for 3 days, they'll be able to keep those criminals out. So you need to start making decisions now. Let's assume you went with the majority view, you've given yourself 24 hours. If you use your mobile devices again, you can decide what you then focus on. For this, you can focus on just 3 things, because as part of your command and control, you need to triage. You need to decide what is most urgent, what is most important. Do we need to get the insurer involved? Many of you probably think you have insurance that covers this situation. In the UK, over half of chief executives think they have cyber insurance that covers an incident like this. According to Lloyd's of London and Marsh, only about 4% actually do, and that's of the larger organisations. You may find you're having to rely on your board and your own team. Yeah? Interestingly, this is pretty rare, so let's jump straight up to the results as they're coming in, please, Alan. Even though it was the item at the bottom, the majority of you, 2/3, have said you would implement your cyber crisis plan. You're obviously working at Acme, as it says in the brief. You've got one of those. Anybody who hasn't got one in real life, please talk to me afterwards. There are a surprising number of things that you need to do. And if we go back to the slides, thank you, Alan. Not all of you are going to have a well-developed, let alone well-tested plan. Imagine doing this simulation for just half an hour or 60 minutes with your actual board. Imagine how that would help them think through, where is our data, what is sensitive, how do we protect our reputation and revenues as well as our data. Because as you're working out what to do, things are going to accelerate further. Angry Customer is a real Twitter account, and for the purposes of the simulation, we've assumed that Angry is one of your customers. Rumours are getting out that not just the 200 initial customers that perhaps you've thought about contacting, but rumours are circulating somehow that maybe Acme doesn't care about its customers as much as it should. So you really need to focus on communications now. And if you again turn to your voting devices, you can decide what to do. If, for example, as Angry Customers noted, Acme was running a advertising campaign that was branded Acme Cares, then rumours of a breach happening at the same time you're putting that advertising out might get hijacked. So some people will say, let's stop all other communications so that we can focus on the public relations aspect of this particular incident. Maybe we need to tell our staff. Maybe we need to have a script for those who are customer facing, not just physically, but in call centres and including on social media. Maybe we should have a website that would have all the detailed Q&A specified so that when people can't get through on the telephone lines, they'll be able to at least see on the special website that we've set up what to do. And Alan, if we bring up the results, it's interesting. Everyone's a bit slower on this one. Less people have voted so far. And let's look at the second one. Creating a website with a Q&A, that typically takes days. And if you set it up as a separate website, you may actually find that people don't trust that website. The Equifax breach, they set up a separate website, and Google browsers stopped people going to that website because Google assumed that it was criminals who were trying to get people's customers' details following the breach. I'm going to move very quickly now because finally there's some goodish news. Only I think it was 5% of you involved procurement at the outset of this incident, even though you know that most of Acme's work gets done by suppliers. They're processing lots of sensitive information for you. Yeah? If you have the kind of services that we do for London, for the Mayor of London, the small businesses there, you would have a dashboard of which organisations you're interested in are currently vulnerable. Yeah? In terms of automated regulation that we were talking about earlier, reg tech, to let the regulators and also the enterprises see which companies have problems, what hackers can see and scoring them. And it turns out that one of your suppliers has been breached. And in this particular case, you're lucky that your French supplier is ready and able and financially willing to support you in the breach notifications and other things you'll have to do. Yeah? But if you'd like to see the results from just this very short simulation, that's the URL you can go to later. I'd love to talk to you about helping your organisation with similar rehearsals in the future. Michael, everybody, thank you very much.